All our students have been rejected from or thrown out of other schools, or they've withdrawn from the education system because of their mental health conditions or their complex family situations or the trauma and the drugs and the abuse in their homes. And we're a special assistance school. My experience in schooling is completely different. I attended an elite girls' school. I then taught at elite schools. And then I taught at a little community school for new migrants in the Armenian community. And now I'm at Warrakirri. And when I got the job here, one of my colleagues who was at St Catherine's in Sydney, actually, said, "Forget the pearls." She was right. I have, however, learned what spaces in your ears look like. And instead of giving someone a detention for not wearing their hat in the street, I now say, "Blue hair. I think it suits your skin colour much better than the rainbow from last week." But the reality is, it's also when someone sticks their head in the door and says, "Oh, miss, you worked really hard for this school. This school has changed my life. If it wasn't for here, I'd be back in jail." And when a kid who's come from Sierra Leone on his cousin's passport ends up in out-of-home care, comes to us and then says, "Look, I'm going to have to go to jail for rape. And what can I study when I'm in jail because I can't do normal subjects there?" So we work out what he can do, and I take the stuff up to him in jail. He's so proud because his principal's come to visit him. Hadn't been in jail before, which is good. And then in the end, he moves away from his friends who are going into jail for grievous bodily harm and stuff like that. And we rock him through, and he actually finishes an HSC and then gets a job and does some work at TAFE. That's why I became a teacher. That's why we all became teachers. And so I have to say that this is the most rewarding job I've had. But because I'm so old, there's also this responsibility.
No, you're not.
We don't know. Because my experience is very broad. And when I came to school, we had 5 teachers and 38 kids. We were losing $400,000 a year. And schools like mine exist across New South Wales, started by a social enterprise often. And they're needed, but the social enterprise can't fund that kind of loss. We now make significant profit every year and have expanded to 78 staff, and I'm looking for a 6th campus as we speak. But what I feel is my benefit from being part of this Menzies movement, I'll call it that because I think it is multiple. I think that our teachers find school very difficult. They're difficult kids. They're highly traumatised, and they get triggered and you don't know why. And suddenly this kid's calling you abusive language, terrible names, and you don't know why it's happened, and you've got to learn to deal with it. But it's hard. It takes your emotional resources. And I need to learn how to build collective efficacy among our staff, because what they do is significant. It changes people's lives. But gee, when it's just, you're embattled and you're tired and you're stressed and your friends are all off having COVID and RSV and all these things, and everyone's sick and you're covering extra classes and you're copying all this emotional baggage, it's really hard. And we need to keep focused on the fact that we make a significant difference in the lives of Roland, who would otherwise be back in jail. So that's part of why I'm delighted to be here. The other part is that schools in my sector, which is the alternative schools sector, are typically under-resourced. They're led by people who have no experience in running a school. The schools often end up closing down for lack of funds, and it's really a place where people are trying to work on their own. And imagine being a first-year out only maths teacher in the middle of a country town, running the whole maths department on your own for a school of kids who have terrible problems. And you can't do it, So what I'm trying to do is I've set up an alternative schools network in New South Wales, where we now have a conference every year. and we've set up virtual departments so that if you're in Wagga and you think, what textbook should I use? Or does anyone know if this experiment is safe to do? Or will I scrap them all off the ceiling because it's crowd synthesis? You know what that is. Then it's really nice to have someone you can ring and a kind of a network, even if it's virtual. So what I want to do is to learn about setting up a leadership pipeline for other school principals in our sector. The sector needs to grow. The Disabilities Royal Commission has been working with us. They've described our school as a little nugget of gold because it's replicable. It can be put in country towns, it can be put anywhere. It can work, and it will bring children out of their homes and off the streets and out of jail, out of mental hospital care, to a place where they can actually complete an education. And often they're the first in their family to finish year 10. Their parents can't read. They have children at 15 or 16. And my next goal, I've got several, is to set up a creche on our campus so the teen mums can finish year 10 and finish year 12. Yeah. And also hopefully get a VET course in early childhood so their children aren't taken away from them by DCJ and they can get a job in early childcare and become citizens who can be independent rather than a life as a Centrelink dependent person who then goes on to promulgate this intergenerational welfare dependence issue that we have in our communities. So it's so much work to do. And I have to say I was a bit overwhelmed by it all. And I've listened to Adrian and the other amazing people in our support team and the other Menzies fellows today. I've learned so much. And I now feel that I have a support base and I have a resource. And today has been exciting and I've learned a lot, but I'm looking forward to the whole project. And thank you, all of you, for your support for all of us because, you know, it's a bit lonely and sometimes you feel overwhelmed by the challenge. You've got the vision and almost enough courage. But when there's people of this calibre behind us, I feel emboldened, you know. I'm prepared to go and see the minister and say, I need this site in Sydenham. And I need you to give me some money for these teenage kids, their children aren't taken away from them. And I feel that I have support to do that, moral support and real support. And thank you so much for including me and thank you for what you're doing for all of us and for our kids. Thank you very much. Yeah.